Hello and welcome to JFB Bites. Have you all got a cup of coffee? I hope so. So settle in and I'm going to run you through my top 5 exhibitions to see here in London. I stepped out on what was the greyest possible day and it had been raining and it was pretty windy. So yeah, natural English weather. And I walked around pretty much every conceivable exhibition that's open here in London at the moment. And I have condensed it down into my top 5 for you. By the way, all of these exhibitions you can see within, I would say, 2 hours, an hour and a half. So all you need to do is get out at Green Park Tube Station. They are literally probably a 5 to 10 minute walk from each other. So we're going to start our little journey in White Cube, Mason's Yard in St James, with George Baselitz. This was a refreshingly monochromatic, beautiful show. You kind of are, as soon as you walk into the exhibition, confronted, and that's what I love about that space. As soon as you walk in down the stairs, you just walk into this beautiful space that is huge, kind of all-encompassing, and you're confronted by these massive canvases of sort of huge elongated hands, like huge big hands like this, like they're just literally in front of you, like. And what kind of struck me immediately was, first of all, the black and gold colour palette, which I quite possibly couldn't have picked a better colour palette. It's my favourite one this time of year. What was really incredible about it was that these hands that you see, I mean, to me, first of all, it wasn't really evident that they're hands. And I think that's to do with the way that he technically created the paintings. So they're created by putting a huge amount of paint onto one canvas, and then what it's kind of very, very aggressively, hardly pushed together with another. And there's this transfer from one to the other. So one side is very opaque and then the other side is very translucent. And I have to say that the more translucent the paintings, I think I like them more. The other one's still all encompassing and engaging. And what that did is it created also another texture on top of the canvas for you to see. So you've got the deep, dark, matte black, and then this textured, almost metallic matte gold on top. And then move to the right and you have these, I think there's 6 of them or maybe 7, these hand sculptures that are beautifully finished fire gilded bronze, and you can see where he's worked the clay mold, like the fingerprints and the texture of where he's working the clay, which is then cast into the bronze and then highly polished. And I have to admit, maybe these were my favourite part of the exhibition. I mean, I liked it all, but maybe that was my favourite part, because you want to go and put your thumbprint into it. And for me, that's what it represented and the show represented, because each of the pieces is named after one of the artists that inspired him the most. And then downstairs, and there's a really beautiful room on its own that has these stunning ink drawings that he created. I've always been a fan of ink drawings and ink as a medium. I think it's very gestural, and as a draftsman you have to work very quickly with the medium to create something that is comprehensible. And you can really tell a great draftsman by their ink drawings. Salvador Dali was a fantastic ink painter, ink drawer, and an incredible draftsman. And I think Baselitz sits in that kind of stage where these ink drawings are stunning, and they're very, very linear in the sense of referencing back to paintings that he created in the 90s. In this exhibition, I feel like there's a very structured way in which he was working. So you have the formative aspect in the drawings, and then you have the expressive nature in the abstract nature in the paintings. And then the sculptures are a fantastic addition, unlike anything I've seen before. So after George Baselitz's show at White Cube, we head down the road to Dane Schutz at Thomas Dane Gallery. What a show. It's definitely full of characters and different worlds, and these paintings are painted, you can see every emotion the human form could possibly depict, from hysteria to joy, from sort of this tension between reality and surrealism. And the characters she depicts in these are ones of solitude that struggle together in isolation. And I think it really resonates now with what we're going through at the moment, because a lot of us are kind of in some sort of isolation on a day-to-day basis where normally we wouldn't have been. And we would have been around our colleagues or in some sort of situation where you're speaking to other people, or at least one other person or more than one other person. You can definitely see sort of her influences from history of art coming through, and she has this great ability to depict in her own style anything from still life through to the allegorical paintings where you've got different characters running across the canvas, but with a completely new identity that's solely hers, and a style that comes across as hers, which is quite difficult in today's contemporary painting sphere, to come up with a completely new identity, which I think she's managed to do in a fantastic way. So she uses thick layers of paint on the surface and transforms these surfaces as well as the characters within her paintings into these sculptural landscapes that reinforce the physical nature of her subjects. She isolates the figures in settings that contend with danger and affliction, and you can see internal dilemmas and almost like a kind of clownish absurdity in their physical physical contortion, and the conflict that's caught in this kind of dislocated transience that she creates in these paintings. And when I saw them, I found them at times kind of grotesque and alarming, but definitely comforting in a weird way, that this alarming nature in her paintings and the kind of myriad of colours that she uses on the canvas, combined with the thickness of the paint, distorts this image of reality into surrealism, which is definitely carried through into her bronze sculptures. And there's this beautiful room that you walk around with all this natural light coming through, and you see these clay sculptures. They look like clay sculptures, but they're bronze, so they're cast into bronze, that are very similar to, I guess, like my first sculpture project at school, where we were told to look at the gargoyles on top of buildings and to recreate them in a sculptural form. And you've got these characters with these kind of elongated noses, almost like the Joker. And I think there's kind of a bit of humility and humour in her work that you settle into, that's really interesting. With her sculptures, I was fascinated by them. They were so ugly, but at the same time, they looked like an image of how humans might have been created out of the clay of the earth. You know, they are continuously gestural with strong finger marks made out where she's created the molds, and they're originally made out of clay. And they hold this kind of sense of temporality, which is really interesting. And there are comic elements to these works that are reminiscent of maybe a joke or a jester referred to in the artwork titles, as well as the extreme features that she's included in the pieces. Definitely moving away from the monochromatic works of Baselitz, I felt like we had jumped straight into a world of Alice in Wonderland, except Wonderland was the world that we're currently living in. And I feel like she really captured the feelings and emotions that perhaps we're all going through on a daily basis. You know, this kind of stark reality to the characters in her that she depicts in her paintings. And I found the paintings and sculptures jarring and grotesque at times, but ultimately incredibly comforting, if that's even possible. So Schutz continues to display her ability to assess the human condition and depict a wide range of visible and hidden emotion that we sometimes find impossible to understand in ourselves. And then off we go down to Pace Gallery, where you've got Trevor Paglan's Bloom. I've got a lot to be unpacked here. Potentially is my favourite, mainly because it was so fantastically interactive, but also visually stimulating. And then when you realise what his work is examining is quite daunting as well at the same time. So Trevor's work is pioneering in a way where he examines systems and technologies that shape our society. So computing systems that collect and interpret and operationalize data that defines and tracks identity, movement and habits in the human form. So he's done a lot of research on data collected by many different bodies, and what he's done is he's turned that into a beautifully informative exhibition. And I think on the surface, because it's so beautiful, once you start interacting with it, you realise how scary. So then we head over to Josh Smith, Spectre at David Zwirner. This show actually is concurrent with an exhibition that he's holding in New York as well. And it features a group of paintings depicting the empty streetscapes from a series that the artist began at the beginning of March. It reflects his experience creating these new works during the 2020 pandemic. And alongside the exhibition, he's written a text which you can go and view on David Zwirner's website. He wrote to accompany the exhibition. He says, "Where I live and work, people should not live. This is not a place for a happy life. This is an industrial area which gradually turns into hardy residential neighbourhoods. And there are trends around here. There tends not to be many people out at all. And when a person would appear on the horizon, we each take pains to avoid each other." This exhibition for me was I just love the way the buildings were painted and the colours that he captures. And it definitely shows a solitude and in their creation of what he's depicting, and almost the colours represent the depiction of different emotions and what he carries with that. As well, at David Zwirner, you have on the top floor an exhibition, and I apologise, I'm definitely going to mispronounce her name, by Portia Zvavahera. And the exhibition title, which also I will not be able to translate or speak at all, from Shona to English, is "I took my rest in sleep, and then I awoke, for he sustained me." So in her paintings, she gives form to emotions that manifest from other realms and dimensions beyond the domains of everyday life and thought. Her vivid imagery is rooted in the cornerstones of our earthly existence, in life and death, pain and pleasure, isolation and connection, and in love and in loss. And these paintings, just within how she paints the fabric and the form that arises from the fabric, kind of reminded me of when I went and saw George Baselitz's show and I first saw these cloaked women. And I don't know, maybe it means something, I don't know, I keep seeing cloaked women everywhere. Maybe it does mean something, I don't know. And just her kind of, the tonal palette that she uses is very, very, very calming. Last but by no means least, we have Alan Jones at Almine, Rech. It's Alan Jones's second solo exhibition with the gallery, and his paintings include empty yet beautifully lit theatre interiors that subject remarkably resonant in our current peculiar times, in the sense that spaces shouldn't be empty. And what he has created is these beautiful paintings accompanied with sculptures that have, I have to say, one of the most exquisite colour palettes I have ever seen. The way he combines colour and the gradation of colour in these paintings is beautiful. It is melodic, it is lyrical, it is, you bounce from one part of the painting to another, from one gradient to another, and it's absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. Thank you for watching JFB Bites, my top 5 gallery exhibitions in London. Please do click on the like button or go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is where I post most of these videos as well. And see you next time.